Review, claims and arguments. A claim is made when an author says something that may or may not be true. When a claim is made, an argument is born. Which of the statements below is a claim? Hint, if it can be argued, it is a claim. If it is a fact, or common sense, it is not a claim. How many did you get correct? Valid or invalid? A premise is simply a piece of evidence. When an argument is valid or a claim is valid, if all the premises are true, then the claim must be true, so the argument is valid. It is impossible that all the premises are true and the claim is false. A true premise plus a true premise will equal a true claim and a valid argument. Example, all students must take Keystones, plus Mrs. M is an English teacher, equals all of Mrs. M's students must take Keystones. Both of the premises are true, so the claim is true, therefore the argument is valid. Invalid. We can test for invalidity by assuming that all the premises are true and seeing whether it is possible for the claim to be false. If this is possible, the argument is invalid. You can have two true premises that could equal, possibly, a false claim and an invalid argument. For example, Mrs. M has 3 degrees in English, plus Mrs. M is a teacher, equals Mrs. M teaches high school English. Can this be false? Be careful when making assumptions. This argument is invalid. Even though the premises are true, the claim could possibly be false. Mrs. M could do a lot of other things besides teach high school English, so therefore this argument would be invalid. An argument presents logical reasons and evidence to support a viewpoint, a discussion involving differing points of view, or a debate, a process of reasoning, a series of reasons, a statement, reason, or fact for or against a point. Parts of an argument. The issue is the problem or controversy about which people disagree. The claim is the position on the issue. The support are the reasons and evidence that the claim is reasonable and should be accepted. The refutation is for the opposing viewpoints, the counter-argument. Types of support. Reason, a general statement that supports a claim. Evidence consists of facts, statistics, experiences, comparisons, and examples that show why the claim is valid. Emotional appeals, ideas that are targeted toward needs or values that readers are likely to care about. Remember, CER. C. Claim. State an opinion about a specific topic. Evidence or warrants. Describe the details directly from the text. And reasoning or backing. Provide a logical explanation for how the evidence supports the claim. There are several types of arguments. An argument by emotion or pathos, sometimes called emotional appeal. The writer tries to get the reader to connect to his or her argument by invoking feeling in the reader. He or she often uses the phrases I feel or I believe in the argument. Argument by logic, logos, uses facts, evidence, and logical claims to convince readers the author's argument is true. Argument by ethics or ethos, uses the assumption that the author is morally correct and everyone else wants to be moral as well. An analogy. In this form, reasoning is based on the idea that if two things have some things in common, then they also probably have other things in common. Argument by authority, uses the words of someone who may be considered a specialist on a subject to persuade readers. Expert opinion, an argument when someone who is an authority on a particular subject and can give an educated opinion. Examples include a doctor, a lawyer, researcher, institution of higher learning, etc. Statistics provide concrete examples to support an author's argument. The numbers don't lie. Snob appeal. This is an appeal to the part of people that want to be seen as individuals. Sometimes it relies on people thinking or wanting to be seen as better or smarter than most other people. Inductive reasoning reaches a general conclusion from observed specifics. For example, by observing the performance of a large number of athletes, you could conclude that athletes possess physical stamina. Deductive reasoning begins with a major premise and moves toward a more specific statement or minor premise. Top-down approach. Example, athletes possess physical stamina. Because Anthony is an athlete, he must possess physical stamina. For more on deductive versus deductive reasoning, check out this link. Sound and unsound. A sound argument is an argument that if and only if it makes a valid claim and contains only true premises. Unsound. An argument that is not sound. An argument that may seem to make a valid claim but clearly has some false premises is unsound. Example 1. Sound. Premise. All mammals have lungs. Premise. All rabbits are mammals. Claim. All rabbits have lungs. Here, all the premises are true and the claim is valid. Therefore, it is a sound argument. Example 2. Unsound. Premise. All insects have 6 or more legs and 3 body sections. Premise. Spiders have 8 legs. Claim. Spiders are insects. Here the premises are true and the claim seems valid, but since spiders do not fit all criteria, the claim is invalid and the argument is unsound. Can you pick out the sound arguments? How many did you get correct? Here's an excerpt from the Ultimate Fighting Championship by Mary O'Dowd. Take a look at the passage and answer this question. Why would we agree that the last 3 sentences of this argument make a valid claim? A student read this passage and made the following claim about Section 5. Which best describes the student's reasoning? Although all good arguments are based on true and valid claims, sometimes a counter-argument is presented. When a counter-argument is presented, the author needs to be ready to deliver a rebuttal. A rebuttal is an attempt to disprove or refute a counter-argument. You might even concede their point or admit it is valid, but offer a rebuttal that nullifies it. Let's see if you can identify a good rebuttal to refute a point. Let's look at the same passage. Which rebuttal statement best refutes a viewpoint in this section? Let's review. Essential information versus non-essential information. Essential versus non-essential. Essential is important to the text. Without this information, the reader would be confused. It is need to know. Non-essential. Not overly important to the text. If this information was removed, the main idea would not be lost. This is good to know. Determining essential information will help you be a better note taker. Let's practice. Reading strategies like SQ3R can be a great way to help you distinguish between essential and non-essential information. Let's practice. This article, it costs $7,500 a year to buy carrots for this gigantic rabbit. Take a look at the article and see if you can identify the essential and the non-essential pieces of information. How did you do? You can see I've crossed out the information that is not essential. Take a look at the title and think about what we're talking about here. We're talking about the cost a year for buying carrots for a gigantic rabbit. So the opening statement here, the colossal cottontail, not super important. We can tell that the rabbit is large both from the title and from the image. When we're introduced to the rabbit, perhaps his name isn't totally essential to the text, but knowing that he's a heavyweight hare, where he's from, probably not super important, but that he's poised to capture a title as the world's biggest bunny. So again, talking about the size of the rabbit, definitely essential to the text. Just like how big he is, 3 foot 8 inches, still 6 months to reach full adult weight. So you know that he's gigantic, still growing. That could lead us back to information about the cost. Here's the super essential piece of information, or the most important thing that we should take away, that it costs about $7,500 a year for carrots and apples to keep him growing. So it expands on the the information that we get out of the title. It's not just about carrots, it's about apples as well, to feed the gigantic rabbit to keep him growing. Now I've underlined this here. As soon as Jeff tips the scales at record weight, experts from Guinness will be called in to make it official, she said. It's not that it's super essential to the passage, but it's definitely a key detail. Going back to the size of the rabbit, I mean, obviously this rabbit's a bit of an anomaly. It's not something that you see every day. It's not an everyday household rabbit. So it's not that it's overly essential. We could remove it and still understand the main point of the article, but it's definitely a key detail. So it's something we want to draw our attention to. Let's do some more practice. Claim an essential versus non-essential. Read the passage. As you read, pay attention to how the author uses evidence to back up the argument in the passage, and try to identify any irrelevant evidence. The claim. The Beatles are the most successful artists of all time. Relevant evidence includes 1 billion albums were sold, most were gold and platinum records, most were #1 singles. Irrelevant or non-essential information includes they are my brother's favorite band, and my brother plays the piano. Let's do some more practice. We're going to read a passage and answer the questions that follow. Unfortunately, pollution is like air. It's everywhere. Pollution is the introduction of harmful substances into the environment that can cause damage and harm to humans, animals, and the environment. It takes on a number of different forms, from chemicals and garbage to something as seemingly innocent as light or noise. Pollution comes from a variety of sources. In addition, it alters, changes, and even destroys a variety of places. For example, exhaust from cars pollutes the air. When it rains, runoff from fertilizers and pesticides, which farmers use to help crops grow, can pollute the water in oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams. Garbage dumped in landfills is not only an eyesore, but also a source of harmful gases that can damage the Earth's atmosphere. Light pollution, which comes in the form of bright streetlights or signs, disrupts the view of the night sky. Noise pollution caused by cars, trucks, and machines interrupts the natural sounds of the world around us, such as birds singing or leaves rustling. The types of pollution and their effects vary greatly. At the same time, however, they are related. Each type of pollution affects the other types. An example of the connection between different types of pollution is acid rain. Acid rain is caused mostly by sulfur and nitrogen emissions given off by sources such as car exhaust and the burning of fossil fuels such as coal. These harmful chemicals rise into the atmosphere where they react with other compounds and then fall as an acidic form of rain, sleet, or snow. Acid rain damages plants and buildings, contaminates soil and water, and has a negative effect on animals, fish, and even humans. Pollution has other effects too. Breathing toxic air or drinking polluted water can cause humans and animals to develop health problems that can be serious and sometimes deadly. The death of too many members of a certain species of animal can upset the local ecosystem, or the area in which they live. As a result, weather patterns and climates can also change. Though pollution is everywhere, there are ways to help prevent it. By walking or riding bikes instead of driving cars, people can help decrease air pollution. People can also buy and eat organic foods to support farmers that do not use fertilizers on their crops. It is also a good idea to take old things that people intend to throw away and find new ways to use them. A great way to help the environment is to recycle. Save items like used paper, glass, and plastic bottles and metal cans. Then take them to a recycling center where they can be turned into new products to be used again. Some cities and towns even have recycling programs in places, so all you have to do is leave your recyclable items on the curb on a certain day each week. It doesn't get much easier to help the environment and reduce pollution than that. Question number 1. Question number 2. Question number 3. Question number 4. Question number 5. Let's review. A claim is an individual's position on a specific issue, a debatable topic. An argument presents logical reasons and evidence to support a claim, an opinion about something. Essential, important, relevant, necessary. It's must-have information to help a reader understand the main idea of a text. Non-essential, unimportant, irrelevant, unnecessary. Good to know information that helps clarify a main idea for the reader. Without this information, nothing is lost from the main idea.